Xiaomi 17 Ultra has some crazy camera specs like a continuous zoom and a 40% larger battery than the iPhone 17 Pro Max. But the question is, in a normal day in the life, does it take better photos and does the battery last longer? To answer this question, I'm going to spend a day with Anna in Vienna. We started the day in the morning while both phones were fully charged and connected to the same 5G network. As a side note, I bought both of these devices with my own money. Vienna is really cold these days and often it snows. I took this video in 4K on both phones and Xiaomi colors are a bit more muted, while the iPhone is more vibrant. The iPhone is doing a better job at stabilization, but it is sharpening Anna's hair more, which makes the footage look digital. The main camera on the Xiaomi is a 1-inch type sensor, which is larger than almost any other flagship phone out there. It lets the phone gather more light and create a stronger background blur, as you can see in this photo. Also, Xiaomi colors are made in collaboration with Leica and have a unique tone. In this video, I'm using Leica Vibrance mode. Another big difference between the two phones is that not only does Xiaomi have a much larger telephoto sensor, but the lens is also a continuous zoom from 75mm to 100mm, while the iPhone is a fixed 100mm one. I do find the Xiaomi photos to be a bit softer in telephoto shots, which is what you expect from how a real camera would behave. It also visibly has better optical quality. The magenta tone it has is also an obvious contrast to the green tone on the iPhone default mode. The background blur is obviously more on the Xiaomi on the telephoto lens because of the larger sensor. It gives it a more professional look. I also find focusing with telephoto lens much easier on the Xiaomi. Here, I tried for at least half a minute to focus on the berries on the iPhone, but it simply didn't work. It could be because the minimum focusing distance is around a meter on the iPhone for the telephoto lens. The only lens that is on paper better on the iPhone is the ultra-wide one, which is both larger in size and also has a slightly wider focal length of 13mm instead of 14mm on the Xiaomi. We then took the train to go to the city to have a coffee and also go to Albertina Museum. When we arrived, I bought both phones to navigate throughout the day using Google Maps to various locations we were visiting. The first stop was this beautiful church. I took this video with the ultra-wide lens, and I do find the iPhone doing a slightly better job at retaining highlights, especially on the columns, while Xiaomi is doing a little bit of overexposing. But overall, both have amazing quality. If we look at the pictures with the ultra-wide lens, they look similar, with Xiaomi being more on the vibrant side. It does look like the iPhone is a bit sharper though, but it's probably more a software tweak rather than optical quality being superior. Also, Xiaomi maybe is doing a bit of AI enhancements, but it's very difficult to tell if it is using normal computational photography techniques or some kind of generative AI algorithm. Anna has a bucket list of coffees she wanna try, and we went to try one. When it comes to food pictures, they are both doing fine. The iPhone has more of everything in focus, but that's more due to the physical characteristics of the lens. Right now, the iPhone has 97% and Xiaomi has 91% battery left. Both of them are also having a good 5G connection so far. I put both phones to play YouTube in the background while I'm finishing the breakfast, and by the time I finished, the iPhone had 92% and Xiaomi had 86% battery left. We then went to the city park to take some outdoor pictures of nature. Right off the bat, you probably notice Xiaomi tends to expose the photos slightly more, and it is not limited to Leica Vibrance mode. Even in Leica Authentic, like in this photo, the Xiaomi photo is slightly more exposed. That's not necessarily a bad thing on its own, it is just a different style and it also makes photos look more alive. At least for nature photography, Xiaomi obviously has an upper hand because of the better quality you get from the telephoto and the fact that the zoom is continuous, so you have more freedom. Xiaomi also gives you more bokeh, but if you want to get even more bokeh, you can use portrait mode on both phones. I took this photo without portrait mode and the Xiaomi has a more natural background blur because of that. Here I used portrait mode on both phones. I do find Xiaomi's bokeh in portrait mode to be more natural, especially if you look at Anna's hair. It also applies a little bit of a beautification filter, which is on by default, but of course you can simply turn it off. But to see how good the Xiaomi photo is, I'm putting it here next to the photo I took with a Sony full frame camera, and except for colors, they are pretty close. I also prefer the skin processing on my face on Xiaomi here, as on the iPhone, the orange of my jacket is spilling onto my face somehow. On white people though, I do find Xiaomi to make their skin tone a bit too white, removing highlights on their face, but also iPhone is making it too yellow. You can also see the same thing in the video, where Anna's skin tone on the iPhone has a bit of orange and highlights, which was closer to reality, whereas the Xiaomi is processing it with a more pink. And here, as you can see, even the dogs are struggling to walk on the frozen lake. It looks cute though. For selfies, of course, the colors are also different, but the more important thing is that the iPhone has a rectangular sensor, meaning you can take a selfie both horizontally, like this one, and also vertically, which is a game changer for group selfies and vlogging. It was getting cold, so we went to the Albertina Museum, and there was a Marina Abramovic exhibition there. You may know her from her brilliant but rather disturbing art like Rest Energy, or the other, more recent work of her when she sat down with the audience and had extended eye contact. Here, you can also see the phones are picking a very different white balance. The iPhone is warmer and Xiaomi is colder. I also took a few photos indoors where again you can see that the Xiaomi exposes slightly more than the iPhone, both with the normal lens and also here when you look at the picture with the ultra-wide lens. It was already getting dark outside, so we went out to take some night photos. I do find Xiaomi to be more on the warmer side at night, but also the pictures is more pleasant to look at. The larger telephoto sensor really goes a long way if you use it in the low light situation. Especially if you want to do portrait shots, the Xiaomi photos will end up being more usable. That said, it is always better to use the main camera at night. But for the main lens too, the largest sensor gives an edge to Xiaomi, both in terms of color accuracy and dynamic range, with the photo being less noisy and of higher quality. For ultra-wide, the quality is close, but Xiaomi is applying AI a bit better to capture the details in the photo, while the iPhone can look a bit mushy. For video at night, the iPhone has an obvious edge with better stabilization. The Xiaomi also seems to suffer from frame drop. On the other hand, you can see the ugly green ghosting dust on the iPhone footage. By the time we finished taking night photos and got home, the iPhone had 65%, while Xiaomi had 64% battery left. I then let both phones upload all the photos in Google Cloud, and by the end of it, the iPhone ended with 61% and Xiaomi with 56% battery left. The Xiaomi phone I'm using here is the Chinese variant, which I bought from Trading Shenzhen. I love them since they always have good prices and send the phones on time. I put the link in the description. It is running HyperOS 3, while the iPhone is running iOS Liquid Glass. Overall, the look and feel of HyperOS are very similar to the iPhone. Even the icons are almost the same, and they also added the search button on the main page on Xiaomi. There are, of course, functional differences. For example, Xiaomi has a much better camera app with more options. There's also a Pro mode, which I'm going to use more in the video that I'll make to compare Xiaomi to a real camera. So if you don't want to miss that video and want to help us to get to 100k subscribers, hit that subscribe button. In terms of performance, the Xiaomi is sporting the latest Snapdragon 8 Generation 5, while the iPhone is running on the Apple A19 Pro. You should get very similar performance on both of them. In Geekbench, in single core, the Apple gets a better score, while Xiaomi gets a better multi-core score. To run the batteries a bit more, I then let both phones play YouTube Shorts for an hour and a half more, and by the end of the test, with 5 hours of screen on time, the iPhone had 54% battery left, while Xiaomi had 48%. This did surprise me because Xiaomi on paper has a 6800 mAh battery, while the iPhone is the nano SIM version with a 4823 mAh capacity. It does seem to me Xiaomi is draining the battery way too fast, and let's see if the updates solve it. The Xiaomi has a charger brick in the box in this version I bought and has up to 90 watts charging speed, while the iPhone has a 40 watts max speed. If you want to make sure that you will never run out of battery, You can pick one of these small power banks from the sponsor of today's video, Static. This tiny and lightweight 3200 mAh power bank can fit anywhere to give you a 50% boost to your phone. It includes a carabiner and a silicone tip holder. It includes 3 magnetic tips, which are Lightning, USB-C, and micro USB. You can easily connect the tip to the power bank and charge it to charge different devices. The tip connects securely to your phone to charge it. There is of course a separate USB-C port that you can use to charge the power bank in around an hour and a half. This static power bank is simply my favorite one and I carry it everywhere with me. I put the link in the description, and thanks to Static for sponsoring this video. If you enjoyed this video, you can watch the comparison of Xiaomi 17 Ultra versus Vivo X300 Pro next. Thanks for tuning in to TechMo, and I will see you in the next one.